So in this video, I'm going to show how to make a spiral weave. And I'm using 18 gauge, 1/4 inch inner diameter. And if you're familiar with chainmailing, the aspect ratio will make sense and might be relevant. And this one is 5.5 with this size ring. I'm not sure what aspect ratio is needed for spiral chain to work, what the minimum aspect ratio is allowed, but if any of you know, please comment below. Basically, I'm just starting with a closed ring, and I just have a mess of open rings, and I'm just going to put that open ring into the closed, making sure to get a nice closure. And of course I'm using saw cut, which is the preferred type of cut ring for using for chainmail, for jewelry. And I got these rings from the Ring Lord. So right now, nothing special, just have one ring inside of another. And this next step is, it's not too tricky. Basically, we're just looking for the stair step look. So this next string is just basically just going to, I'll show you and then I'll kind of explain. But we kind of have like a Venn diagram right now with these two rings. And we want this next string to go through from the back. Or if you're looking at it this way, from the top, we want this next string to go in between, in the middle of that Venn diagram. So you can see here and there. And then we just close that one. And actually, if you just kind of visualize it like this, basically we just have two crisscrossed rings inside of this ring. So, and the next ring is going to just go, it's going to mimic the very first closed ring. So we're just going to go through and connect like that and close. I'm going to show another way of visualizing this, because as we know, how we visualize these patterns, these weaves, will help determine how easily we're gonna catch on to knowing how to do it. So I just twisted these rings so that I can visualize them in a stair step. And again, this is how it begins. Just those two rings kind of intertwined, crisscrossing each other, and then just one ring on both sides. And then to kind of get it into its pattern, we just want to look for the stair step. And I'm starting with a larger ring size because it's easier to see the pattern when it's larger, but so again, we're going to put this next ring, not here, but through this next ring, like that. And as long as you visualize it in terms of steps, it should help. So right now it doesn't look like anything when you just let it hang. And that's what's kind of tricky about seeing this pattern, is because if you don't twist it into shape, it will look like nothing. So you kind of have to be patient with how the pattern looks, and then it kind of helps to just wind it back into shape before putting on the next ring, to kind of remind yourself where you're at. So again, not this first ring, but this second ring. And just try not to overthink it. This is a really easy weave, but I know everything can be pretty tricky when you're first learning it. Again, this is what it looks like when you don't have it forced into its pattern shape, but it's still correct. But if you just twist it into shape, it should twist into shape. And you can kind of see how it's slowly getting that DNA spiral, and then you drop it into drop it and it just goes into a mess. This weave is good for necklaces and bracelets as far as I know. I'm not sure how people would do earrings, because I'm not sure how to keep the shape of this weave without having it somehow forced. So again, it's just that second. And then I just drop it. Once you know you're in the right ring, you can just kind of drop it, forget about it, close it. And you just keep doing that. And the second way of visualizing it is basically the same as what I just showed. It's just a little bit different in the beginning as far as what rings we're starting with. So basically, we just have an open ring, a closed ring. Basically, this one is just thinking about the weave in terms of starting with just like the crisscrossed rings. So these are just the crisscrossed rings. And I'm always looking for that stair step. And what I mean by that, of course, is it looks like stairs. So the far left, I like mine to be, the far left ring would be on the bottom, and then gradually the next ring goes on top of that. The farthest right is on top of that, the farthest, and so on. So we just crisscrossed two rings. We just have two rings together. And then I'm just turning the rings so that the farthest left is on the bottom, the farthest right is on the top. And we just want to keep that same pattern. So we don't want to do we don't want to put the next ring in the farthest right, because as you see, it won't get us what we want. So we want to put it in the middle of the Venn diagram part, like that. And you can see without closing it, you can see that that will create a stair step. So once we put that in there, once again, if you just let it drop, you can see it's pretty simple. We just have two crisscrossed rings inside of a closed ring. And then we are just going to twist our piece so that we start to see that stepping pattern, like that. And like I said, this visualization is pretty much the same as what I just showed. It's just maybe a little bit different. Maybe something I do in this demonstration will help a little. Will help someone see something a little differently. Again, so it's not, this next ring is not going to go into this one. It's going to go into the next one, like that. And again, just kind of trying to make it focus. And you can just drop it. And that's how it starts. Just two crisscrossed rings, one closed, and then just twisting it into shape and continuing the pattern. And I said earlier that the larger rings, it's easier to see the pattern, but what I mean by that is it's easier to get the weave to do what you want it to do. Working smaller is always a little more fine detail, but you will actually see the actual spiral sooner with smaller rings. But it's always kind of easier to see what we're doing when we're using larger rings. And this ring color is called Black Ice, if anyone is interested. Again, last string, so not this farthest right one, but you always want to link it from the top down or from behind forward, whichever way is easiest for you to visualize. Second ring from the right. Let it drop. Let it look like a mess. And then just close. And that is spiral weave. Hope you guys were helped by this video.